Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Kelvin Tembo, a lecturer at the Malawi University of Business and Applied Sciences. And it's my pleasure to welcome you all to this EASE project webinar today. I'll give you an overview of the webinar. Our program today will last for 1.5 hours, during which we'll hear about learning arising from two key aspects of the EASE project, to do with district energy officers and solar microgrids. Louis Yona of Community Energy Malawi will provide an overview of the DEO activities and experiences during the project, followed by some discussion of impact and policy recommendations by Damien Frame from University of Strathclyde. Elizabeth Banda from United Purpose Malawi in this webinar session will reflect on the experiences of deploying 2 microgrids in Dedza. And Alan Eels from University of Strathclyde will provide insights gained from the data monitoring and visualization work on the microgrids. A final presentation this afternoon will come from Miriam Mafuta from MUBAS, who will give a summary of the research he is conducting to improve the planning and operation of solar microgrids. Therefore, I encourage you to submit questions through the Q&A and chat functions. These will be collected and we will have a Q&A discussion before closing the webinar. At this juncture, I want to give you the energy access profile for Malawi. As of now, the national electricity stands at 14%. About 13.6 million people live off-grid in Malawi. 99% of household energy is supplied by biomass, leading to 32% reduction in forest cover in less than 40 years. Most of the lighting needs are served by candles and non-rechargeable batteries. The profile for Malawi in terms of electricity, for 14% access to electricity, of which 5% is rural access. As of now, Igenco has got installed capacity of 440 megawatts. Presently, only 262 is available as generation capacity. 60 megawatts is from independent power producers through solar PV grid connected generation. At this junction, I want to introduce you the EASE project, as well as partners in the EASE project. The EASE project mainly focuses on SDG7, that's to do with clean energy and affordable energy. Of course, the project started in 2018, and it will end in March 2023. The funding for this project was from the Scottish government to the tune of £1.3 million. The lead partner in this EASE project is University of Strathclyde, with partners in Malawi, which constitute of United Purpose Malawi, Community Energy Malawi, and WASHTED in the academia circle. The main objective of this project is to pilot innovative solar microgrids and energy hubs while building capacity through district energy officers in order to increase access to sustainable energy for rural communities in Dedza and Balaka, thereby enabling economic development and improve livelihoods. What is the role of Strathclyde in Malawi? It has been working in Malawi for a number of years, close to 15 years, with emphasis on appropriate engineering, reducing energy poverty, improving sustainability of off-grid systems, and using technologies to support monitoring and evaluation of energy systems. University of Strathclyde has one of the largest engineering departments in the UK, ranking in the top 5 for electronic and electrical engineering. United Purpose is an international development charity who have been working in Malawi since 1988 with innovative community-led approach to delivering the sustainable development goals and eradicating global poverty and inequality. UP's Sustainable Energy Management Unit has to date had experience of improved cook stoves, pico solar systems, and institutional solar PV for health centers. The organization has a strategy to increase access to modern energy services, enhance markets for sustainable energy, and develop innovative carbon finance models in the communities where it is working. Lastly, WASHTE, the Center for Sanitation, Health, and Technology Development, which was established in 2003 as one of the concerned colleges of the Polytechnic then, is a semi-autonomous training and research center within the faculties of engineering and applied sciences, offering math and interdisciplinary range of skills through its attained members. The main objective of the center include capacity building in the field of water, sanitation, and appropriate technology development, conducting research and consultancy, developing and adopting technologies appropriate to the local environment, and disseminating information to national and international stakeholders. Lastly, Community Energy Malawi as a partner is a Malawian-led membership-driven organization that provides services in networking of organizations and individuals with interest in renewable energy, raising awareness on the potential of renewable energy, capacity building in renewable energy technologies, lobbying and advocacy on renewable energy, and fundraising for and funding renewable energy technology. As a social enterprise with charitable and training status, Community Energy Malawi has experience in a range of technologies and energy access interventions, including the 80 kilowatt systolic mini grid that SAME has so far been operating since 2017. I thank you all for listening to this session. Wishing all the best. As for now, I'll call on the presenters so far mentioned in the production part to start with Luis Yona of Community Energy Malawi, who is going to talk about the roles and activities of these energy officers and the experiences. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and welcome to this webinar. My name is Luis Yona, and I work with Community Energy Malawi as the District Energy Officer. I'm going to share with you experiences as the District Energy Officer on the ground. So Malawi as a country adopted the decentralization type of government in 1998 where Ministry of Agriculture, Health, Environment, Education devolved its function to the district councils. However, energy has always been centralized, therefore leaving a gap to be adequately reflected on the planning as far as local government structures are concerned. So looking at the challenges that were there, us at Community Energy Malawi, we found this as an opportunity. So we had to blueprint the law of district energy officer in Lilongwe for 5 months, whereby the key outcome of that exercise was a recommendations paper of the district energy officer. So this is how his project was born. Guided by the recommendations paper, we rolled out the his project, whereby we had a district energy officer for Balaka, as well as Dedza. So the recommendations paper recommends that a district energy officer should be placed at the district level. As a district energy officer, these are the key activities that he should be doing. From the government side, it is viewed that the district energy officer should be the facilitator, thereby responsible for the dissemination of government policies. You agree with me that as a country, as a nation, we have the energy policy in place, but then people at community level are not aware of that policy. So it is viewed that it's the duty of the district energy officer to disseminate such policies so that people are aware of what energy policy entails. Apart from that, the district energy officer should also be the lead person when it comes to assessment of the socio-economic impact at district level. Apart from that, the district energy officer should be able to network with other sector councils so that energy is mainstreamed in all the aspects of development. Apart from being a government facilitator, the recommendations paper also recommends that the district energy officer should also be a community facilitator, carrying out the following activities: facilitating community energy projects, leading and managing community-led projects where appropriate, but also sensitizing communities on the renewable energy aspects. Above all, the recommendations paper says that the district energy officer should have overlapping duties, whereby he is the main source of incredible information for both the community as well as the government, thereby identifying and leading promising community-led energy projects. So our approach has been simple, in a sense that if we bring awareness of renewable energy to communities, thereby building their capacity, they should be able to plan energy in nexus with other development priorities. So we have been building capacity of both structures at district level, starting from the community to the district itself. Once the capacity for these people is built, they should be able to mainstream energy in their decentralized planning process. As a result, energy projects are supported in district documents, thereby increasing access to sustainable energy and also enabling economic development in rural communities for Malawi. So the first activity as DEOs, what we did was to do baselining to assess the energy access situation in the districts of Dedza and Balaka. So in total, we targeted the VDCs as the lowest structures at community level. In Balaka, we surveyed about 124, while in Dedza, we surveyed about 123 VDCs. The findings indicate that the access is very low when it comes to grid electricity, but also mostly people use torches and lanterns in order to light their homes. As for cooking, the main source was firewood. In terms of ranking the priorities in all the VDCs, energy was not ranked as a main priority for them. We also did what we call DDP review. So DDP stands for District Development Plan, which is a blueprint of projects for the district council. Each district has got its own DDP. So upon realizing that as a council, they have got that blueprint, we sat down with heads of sectors at district level to analyze the DDP if it contains any project that is to do with energy. So we noted that in both DDPs for Dedza and Balaka, energy projects were not there because people are not aware of the energy information. We also conducted a training of frontline workers. So as a district energy officer, knowing that I'm responsible for the whole district, I sat down and see how I can reach to every community in the district. So we learned that the sectors that have been decentralized, they have got representation even at the grassroots level through frontline officers. So we had a training of frontline officers, teaching them how they can mainstream energy in their day-to-day activities. In total, we trained about 170 extension workers. That's 85 from Balaka and 85 from Dedza. So these are government extension workers and also volunteers from NICE. The training was basically developed from the documents that are already used by the government people, but also the renewable energy toolkits that CM developed. So there's a process that people use when they want to come up with projects at VDC level and also ADC level. So we got those guidelines and fused them with the renewable energy toolkits so that they should be able to mainstream energy in their plannings. So that training unveiled a number of opportunities as well as challenges. Some of the opportunities that we came across include the following: strong demand for energy access from communities. After training extension workers on how to mainstream energy, they were able to sensitize their communities on the importance and on the importance of having renewable energy. So we have been getting calls to have interface meeting with communities so that they can understand in detail on what renewable energy is and how they can take forward renewable energy access. After sensitization by the frontline officers, communities felt empowered to develop proposals on energy projects. Some were even able to approach other organizations working in their communities to help them with the renewable energy, despite that organization doing something different from that renewable energy. But also extension workers feel empowered to discuss energy in most recent village area planning process. So since communities are now aware of renewable energy, they are able to include them in the village area planning process. And this has been confirmed in the recent VAPs that have been done. Extending reach of singular district energy officer to many communities is also another opportunity. Instead of having district energy officer and energy officers in all communities, but having just a district energy officer, I think is enough, as he is able to interface with the other frontline officers to make sure that energy is mainstreamed. But also a number of challenges were noted in the process, such as influx of substandard renewable energy products. But also renewable energy products are viewed as expensive, especially the solar home systems, which are bigger in size. There is also a limited knowledge base. Since we trained just a few extension workers, there is a big need to train more extension workers to make sure that the whole district is covered and the energy is effectively mainstreamed. Extension workers, another training that we conducted is on the local technicians. We have noted that most communities have got renewable energy projects which have been done by different organizations. However, when the project phases out, communities are not able to operate and maintain such projects because they do not have the expertise. So we trained about 20 local technicians to make sure that they support such kind of projects. We trained 11 in Balaka and 9 in Dedza. So the selection was that every TA should submit at least one person who should be trained by Community Energy Malawi. Basically, the training covered the design, installation, and the maintenance of solar PV systems. Apart from building local capacity to operate and maintain systems, the local technicians are also helping in identifying renewable energy infrastructure that is needed through support in the process of energy scaping. Just like the previous training, this also training unveiled a number of opportunities as well as challenges. The first opportunity was the demand of renewable energy access from the communities, but also low levels of electrification of electrification of education and the health institution, which has got higher potential of renewable energy installation. But also installed capacity for many PVs, solar PVs is in need of minor maintenance and repairs at the education and health institutions. This also has got high potential impact with low capex requirement. But also there is a positive gender messaging by training female technicians. So we train not only one gender, we train both genders. Women are also doing better as local technicians. In terms of challenges, the issue of affordability is also there. A lack of budget from institutions like health and education in remote areas for the support of the maintenance of their systems. But also obtaining buy-in and collaboration from the local education and health institution managers is also a challenge. Some are not willing to recognize the local technicians that we train. But also there is a limit on technical knowledge and the capacity of technicians. Yes, we train them, but we are not a tertiary institution. So these guys, by the end of the day, they need to have a certificate for them to be full technicians. We also did some capacity building with some district stakeholders. We had roundtable discussions on energy, whereby we had people from the district councils, Malawi Bureau of Standards, MERA, as well as renewable energy players. So every year we would have a theme on renewable energy and then bring all these people together to discuss. We also had some tailored presentations targeting the district council as well as the NGOs to sensitize them on renewable energy and on how they can mainstream energy in their projects. We also did what we call renewable energy standards. So we noted with a concern that once we sensitize people on renewable energy, the next thing they do is go to the nearest market and buy whatever renewable energy products are there. Unfortunately, the markets are flooded with substandard energy products. As a result, people were hating the technology to say solar does not work. However, the main reason was that they bought substandard energy products. In order to correct that challenge, we worked with MERA and the Malawi Bureau of Standards so that we sensitize people on what are the standards of renewable energy are there. We have done 4 awareness campaigns so far, 2 in Balaka and 2 in Dedza. So from those awareness campaigns, we learned that there are booklets for the renewable energy standards that have been developed. Unfortunately, they are in English, and also they are at a cost. They are not available for free. So communities do not have access to such documents. This is also an area where the district energy officer can be handy by providing that access to those documents. But also, mainland Malawi Bureau of Standards are operating at national level. They are not fully decentralized. Having the district energy officer, we believe they can work effectively to sensitize people at local level. But also, consumer rights on demanding evidence of regulatory and standards compliance, along with minimum guarantees, are not yet widely known. Basically, because there is no person on the ground, make sure that that gap is bridged. So DEO can also be effective in that area. Malawi Bureau of Standards aims to reduce proliferation of substandard renewable energy products through market spot checks and audits. This as well can also be an opportunity whereby district energy officer can be handled as well. Otherwise, that was my brief presentation. I should give chance to the next presenter. Thank you.
Thank you, Ruiz.
Okay, thanks, Lewis. Thanks, Kelvin. Okay, I'm just going to make a few comments on data impact and policy reflections. I'm Damien Frame from University of Strathclyde. I'll be working closely with Lewis and the team on the District Energy Officer work. Next slide, please. So the first thing I want to mention briefly, and we're a little bit behind schedule, so I'm going to skip through this part. I will point out that there's some quite good information and reports on our website, which we've shared and we'll share again at the end on energyscaping. But basically, this is a task that we undertook across Dedza and Balaka to accumulate relevant information on energy needs and priorities and opportunities through the district. So using the Kobo Collect app, which is a free app and cloud service with smartphones, we designed a short survey, and the DEOs worked with the local technicians that were mentioned earlier to deploy these surveys. So the technicians were moving about communities, undertaking site visits and doing the surveying. It's a very useful format, and it can be exported to Google Maps and other some mapping formats. We used ArcGIS, and you can follow the link from the online map and get access. So it's very shareable, it's very accessible format. So we completed 368 surveys so far, 224 in Dedza, 141 in Balaka, and there was very briefly no electricity source at 43% of locations. Only 28% had an ESCOM supply, national grid, and 36% had solar powered electricity sources. And general satisfaction was very low with the services that were there. So only 35% of those that had ESCOM were satisfied. They were experiencing poor reliability and high costs. And only 24% that had solar were satisfied, mainly due to the reliability and the extent of the service. They were undersized and poorly maintained. So we took this data set and we've shared it widely with through workshops and roundtables with stakeholders and district councils, particularly the education and health sectors, because that's where a lot of the data turned out to be gathered. Okay, next slide. Okay, so on impact, we've tried our best. We've put a strong focus on assessing the impact of the capacity building activities. So the extension workers that Lewis referred to, they're not only integral in this kind of mainstreaming energy within the planning process, although they play a big role there. Their main function is being active in the community, supporting development activities in their various sectors of agriculture and health and education, etc. And armed with their new knowledge and information and support regarding renewable energy, they're able to talk to communities about the relevance of renewable energy, particularly within their own sector. So renewable energy to support agriculture or education, for example. Okay, so we used some surveys and feedback sessions to capture information on the kind of level of engagement that the extension workers had, and where that engagement went. So the next steps and eventually adopting renewable energy. So our last count, there was the extension workers reported 318 groups directly engaged in renewable energy. 182 went on to further discussions, and 132 went on to adopt renewable energy in some form. You can see in the graph there, a lot of that is in solar lighting and efficient cook stoves. Next slide, please. The technicians, they keep records of their interactions and indirect interactions in terms or impact in terms of advice and support given, or direct impact where systems are installed or repaired. And although both these activities have been hampered through COVID restrictions on community engagement, etc., still managed over 2,000 engagements and repaired or installed 152 renewable energy systems, and also directly distributed 450 portable solar products. But what we can see in this data is that much higher numbers of adoption for portable solar products and cook stoves and individuals implementing smaller solar home systems compared to community scale systems or education and health institutions. And that's mostly down to lack of finance in our observation. Okay, so a few reflections before handing on to the next presenter, and we move on to the microgrids section. So we think we're gathering good evidence that implementing the current sort of national energy policy, which has got a commitment to district energy officers rolled out across all districts. We believe there's good evidence building that policy can deliver clear benefits. And this mainstreaming energy aspect, well, with this updated training and updated local development planning guidelines, DEOs have the opportunity to ensure energy is properly considered in the planning process from VAP through to DDP. And having built the capacity of stakeholders to understand where energy infrastructure and services are required to deliver on other energy priorities. And that can help local planners feed priorities into national rural electrification planning, for example, but it must have a much wider focus than grid extension and start including decentralised energy projects within local investment plans. So this is, it's a cost-effective way to build capacity through this training, but it depends, the effectiveness depends on the reach of the training, the resources available to the extension workers to go and engage with the communities, and the resources available to the DEO to backstop this planning process. Our data shows that with a bit of local knowledge and support available, there is high demand from communities to engage and develop projects. Effectiveness of this needs trained extension workers and technicians to be active and mobile around the district, which obviously needs resource. And crucially, there needs to be access to funding mechanisms to take this larger community scale or institutional scale projects forward. So the DEOs and the local planning level need to be well engaged with the national programmes funded by government and other agencies, so that there is a route to funding for locally led projects. The data sets that we're gathering we think are very useful for supporting local and national planning and energy access tracking. The DEOs can facilitate that and should be of value to many sectors. And building the local technical capacity, well, that is a good opportunity to address sustainability challenges, particularly for solar, widespread use of solar and health education systems. And although many existing systems require only fairly simple low-cost maintenance actions and repairs, a lack of budget prevents this even where the technical capacity is available. So district education and health budget managers need to start allocating modest maintenance budgets to include energy systems within overall assets management frameworks. But equally as importantly, NGOs and others that are providing solar PV systems should be required to coordinate at the district level and with district energy officers when they are available, when they have been put in place, to ensure maintenance strategies are in place before proceeding. And as Lewis finished on, then the opportunity of having that local support for awareness of standards and consumer rights is something that the DEOs have demonstrated good value in, and is something that should be supported, and is an opportunity for MERA and MBS to be more effective to use that resource to get the message across and to help monitor and implement some of their policies. Okay, so that's me, quite a rapid fly through some of those points. Just finally, I mean, the DEO role has demonstrated value in all of these areas, but it could grow and encompass many other functions, clearly, to support various local and national energy priorities and targets. And we're just about to hear about deploying microgrids and Dedza. So I think if decentralized energy systems are to scale up as and play a significant part in meeting Malawi's energy access targets, then that's a level of district support and coordination and tying into district level planning is going to be crucial, and the DEOs would play a strong and important role in that. Okay, thank you very much. And I see there's some questions and questions coming in, so we'll endeavour to start answering those, and we encourage more questions through the Q&A function. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Demi. May I invite Dedza Banda to share and reflect on the experience of deploying 2 microgrids in Dedza?
Thank you so much. My name is Elizabeth Banda from United Purpose Malawi, and I will take you through a presentation on the experiences from operating solar microgrids in Malawi. In my presentation, I will give an update on United Purpose activities under the EAST project, particularly on the installation of the second microgrid. And then I will talk about experiences from operating in Tembanji microgrid, broken down into technical, economic, social impact, community engagement. And then lastly, I will talk about next steps for scaling up. So now going straight to an update on the second microgrid installation. The second microgrid under EAST project has been installed in Kudembe village. It is located in Tietambala in Dedza district. We finalized installations and commissioned the microgrid in September 2022, just last month. And the major challenge faced during the installation period was currency devaluation and inflation. And this caused frequent changes in component prices and necessitated frequent budget revisions, and in some cases, changes in service providers. But otherwise, the second microgrid is now in operation, connecting 50 customers, and it is using the same tariff and site agent setup as in Tembanji microgrid. The picture in this slide shows the final stages of Kudembe generation system installations, and the table shows some system details such as PV capacity, battery capacity, as well as the inverter capacity. Next slide. The generation system for Kudembe microgrid was locally assembled, and it is housed in a shipping container. Most components were locally purchased, apart from PV modules and batteries, which were sourced from South Africa. And this has helped with building of local capacity in installation of these technologies. And we hope it will stimulate local value chains. Next slide. At this point, I will talk about Tembanji microgrid experiences. But before I do that, allow me to give a brief overview of Tembanji microgrid. So the system was commissioned in June 2020 and has been in operation for over 2 years now. It has 60 customer connections and directly serving 364 people. The PV capacity is 12 kilowatts, and it has 19 kilowatt hour lithium ion battery bank and a 240 volt distribution grid. Site operations are being done by site agents who are responsible for customer interaction and taking payment tariffs. And field officers from United Purpose visit the site every week and technical support is being offered by the University of Strathclyde. And also we have a maintenance contract with BNG Electrical Contractors, and they do quarterly preventive maintenance visits. And on business planning, there is routine data collection and analysis. And also we have ongoing business and financial modeling for a social enterprise approach to scaling up microgrids in Malawi. Now coming to the experiences from operating this Tembanji microgrid for a period of 2 years. On the technical side of things, the SMA inverters and Tesford batteries performed really well, and we generally had low system maintenance apart from regular cleaning of panels. The system remote monitoring by University of Strathclyde helped with gaining insight on the system performance and provided early warnings. However, we've had frequent problems with STIMAC or smart meters, mostly due to communication failure. And also we have had some cases of distribution lines being damaged, mainly from tree cutting. On the economic side of things, customer payments are being taken through site agents and logged by smart meters. So we've had no revenue loss in that case. Tariffs were negotiated with customers. Initially, customers thought the tariffs were high, and we had to revise them and offered a significant daytime discount. And operational costs include site agent salaries, data, and software as a service fee for smart meters and maintenance contract fees. Call-out fees for smart meter repairs have been reduced through training of local staff for troubleshooting. Next slide. On social impact, we do conduct customer surveys, like customer journey surveys every 6 months to monitor the project impact. And so far, we have seen a significant impact at a primary school, which has been connected to the microgrid. It now offers evening classes, and children are spending additional time of studying, both at home and at school. And educational tablets and computers have been introduced to the school through Turing Trust. And also the number of primary school pupils making it to secondary school has increased from 7 at baseline to 38 after 2 years of being connected to the microgrid. And we have also seen an improvement on access to news and health information across the customers. Still on social impact, we have also seen new businesses being set up, and these include video shows, grocery shops with fridges, computer cafes, cold soft drinks, salons, barber shops, and phone charging. So when we switched on the microgrid in June 2020, we had 4 business customers connected, but now we have a total of 20 businesses running from the microgrid because other customers have been able to set up a business right at home. And all businesses have reported an increase in income, suggesting local economic development. And we have also observed positive impacts with women reporting an increase in the amount of free time, independence and decision-making, respect within the community and household, as well as security in the home. On community engagement, community trainings and capacity building has been one of the key focus areas for EASE, and we have ensured a two-way dialogue between community and microgrid operators to make sure that expectations are managed, complaints and feedback are heard, and to continuously improve customer service. This has been facilitated through customer contracts, site agents, regular visits from field officers, and specific targeted community trainings and meetings. We had a case of vandalism this year, but awareness raising and engagement of community policing and traditional authorities prevented further occurrences. We also have ongoing tariff negotiations with customers and ongoing trainings on electrical safety. Next slide. So what are the next steps? The exit strategy for EASE is to transition to a social enterprise approach for deploying microgrids. So Kuyatsa Social Enterprise has been registered, and the microgrids will be transferred to this social enterprise for ownership and management. And Kuyatsa will continue to offer reliable and affordable energy to rural communities through sustainable solar microgrids, focusing on agricultural POE as anchor loads, and ongoing analysis of data and experiences from EASE will inform business modeling for scale-up. So that's the end of my presentation, and thank you for your attention. I now hand over back to the chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Eriza, for your presentation. May I provide an insight into those microgrids?
Thanks, Kelvin. Hi, everybody. Thanks, Elizabeth, for that great presentation. My name's Aaron Eales. I'm a research associate at the University of Strathclyde, and my presentation builds on the practical experiences of Elizabeth's presentation, talking more about analysing data to understand microgrid performance and impact. I'll give a bit of an overview of why it's a good idea to collect data and analyse it, how we do it through data collection frameworks, and then follow the same themes as Elizabeth, looking at the technical, economic and social impact, and summarise some recommendations and research agendas at the end. So according to a recent market assessment, microgrids are the cheapest option to provide electricity to 37% of the population in Malawi, but there's less than 20 pilot projects and none of those have really yet proven a bankable business model. So it's a nascent sector with high uncertainty and a lot of high risk, and gathering primary data for microgrids reduces this risk, reduces the uncertainty, and has multiple benefits for several stakeholders. In terms of technical design, you're able to size components and make the technical design more efficient. You can also inform maintenance procedures that lower the costs. For business models, understanding revenue and demand is essential in setting tariffs and financial planning. And then for investors and donors, they obviously are interested in seeing the impact of the microgrid and the economic performance. And as we've seen with the DEOs, having data can inform rural electrification strategies and also regulatory guidance. So data is generally collected from microgrids in three ways. You have smart meters, remote monitoring and surveys. At Mithambanji, our smart meters are SteamerCo. They're collecting real-time data on anything on how the electricity is used, revenue, demand, connection status and uptime. For remote monitoring, we use Sunny Portal from the SMA inverters, and they give us insight on everything to do with the generation system, the solar panels, the inverters, the batteries, and they really help to troubleshoot and inform us if anything's going wrong and to inform the maintenance procedures. And then finally, as Damien mentioned in his presentation, doing surveys in the communities using Kobo Collect on smartphones helps us to gain insight onto how the electricity is being used and the impact it has on the community. Before I get into the nitty-gritty of what we found out, I wanted to highlight that a lot of the data is too much to cover in a presentation, but we have it all online in an open access format in a data visualization tool that we've been developing at Strathclyde. You've got real-time access to indicators, technical, economic and social impact. You can download spreadsheets, and it's a really useful tool that we hope will inform the sector. Currently a work in progress. We've got the data up for Mithambanji, and this year we're hoping to get Kudembe included. So getting into details, the first technical insight that I wanted to talk about is the battery state of charge and temperature. The top graph shows the battery state of charge and the energy flows going in and out, which is logged through SMA. The two key points is to note that at about 11 o'clock, our batteries are fully charged, which means that all of the afternoon is effectively energy that's not used or wasted. So this tells us that we can really put on more daytime uses, and that's why we've reduced the daytime tariff to try and encourage daytime demand. The other important thing to note is that the batteries get steadily discharged as people have their lights on at night, and it's reaching the recommended discharge of 20% by the time the sun comes up. So as it stands, we don't have any spare capacity to connect more nighttime customers without increasing the battery supply. And being able to see this, we can really design extensions and future demand for the system. It's also really important to log temperature. With help from the University of Loughborough, we've installed a data logger, which is tracking temperature inside and outside the container, as well as on the batteries. And with this, we're able to see how temperature is affecting the battery lifetime, and also help to automate procedures to make sure the air conditioning is kept on and at optimum times to keep everything cool and the batteries last as long as possible. Elizabeth mentioned the problems with Steamaco. They've caused us a headache, and through the smart meters, we're able to quantify how much of that headache through these charts. And this is a daily communication uptime, with the red area highlighting when the community had more than the majority of a day without power. And then at the bottom, it tells us how many days of outages we have per month. Tracking this is important because downtime affects revenue and customer satisfaction. And we can also track the average response time. So currently, or previously, to fix the system, we had to get someone out from the long way to bring their climbing equipment, but we've now managed to reduce that response time by training local capacity, which means the lights are kept on or get back on quicker. In terms of demand, I'm very happy to be able to share the load profile of a previously unconnected customer. When we started designing microgrids, this wasn't available, and we had to make a lot of assumptions of how people would use electricity. And now we know, and you can see at the top here that the load profile for the entire microgrid has an evening peak because it's mostly residential. But when you split that up into business, residential, and institution, you can see that the business customers are using a lot more energy during the day and a lot more energy overall. And this helps to inform tariffs and business modeling. Looking at the revenue, we can see monthly and per customer how much income the microgrid is making. And it's interesting to see that it follows quite a seasonal pattern that corresponds with the rice growing seasons in the area. When people harvest their rice, they have more money and spend more on electricity. So we get more money in during the summer months. The average revenue per user of around $5 is similar to other microgrids in Malawi, but when you split it up, you can see that the business ARPU is almost double that of residential. And so promoting businesses on the microgrid will really help with the financials, and tracking the revenue and understanding these seasonal changes is essential for monitoring financial planning. In terms of social impact, Elizabeth gave some high-level statistics. I don't have time to go through all of the indicators, as we've got over 20 on the data visualization tool, but they're segregated into key themes of energy access, health and education, employment, finance, etc. And you can see some of the quantitative data that we're getting out here, how the satisfaction with energy access is improving, the number of businesses is increasing, the use of energy devices such as Pico solar products or 12-volt batteries or dry cell batteries is decreasing, and the access to health information is starting to increase. And we've got plenty of indicators. I'd invite you to go and check them out on the website, and tracking and monitoring the social impact is part of our ongoing work. So as Kelvin will let you know later, we're soon to release a policy brief on our findings, and these have a lot of recommendations that I've summarized here. So in terms of recommendations for policymakers, the main one is that we found is the economics are just about stacking up, but not really for covering the wider project costs. And in order for microgrids to scale, we really need smart subsidies. In Europe and America, grid-based electricity have been subsidized, have always been heavily subsidized, and it's really not fair to expect rural communities, some of the poorest in the world, to pay for the full price of off-grid electricity, and smart subsidies are needed to accelerate that. There's a need for policies to designate a space in rural electrification planning for microgrids that avoids the risks of the grid approaching and leaving stranded assets. As Elizabeth said, there were some struggles with Forex, foreign capital, and also VAT. VAT is currently waived for solar products, but not for the distribution grid or for the ancillary components. And including that would really reduce CapEx costs. And setting aside Forex for renewable energy projects would speed up project delivery timetables. Generally, there's a need to invest in research and capacity building to inform the nascent sector. In terms of microgrid developers, hopefully this presentation and the EES outputs is showing the value in data monitoring and analysis, and if possible, for developers to share that data to improve the sector. There's a big need to seek collaboration with partnerships and multiple development players, for example, working with agricultural productive use of energies experts to promote that daytime use and improve the microgrid financials. There's a big need for microgrid developers to be innovative in their business modeling, trialing dynamic tariffs and trying new methods of payment, such as mobile money. There isn't a business plan that works, and there's going to need to be some innovation to make it work. And finally, we've hopefully highlighted the need for community engagement and measuring social impact, both the importance of it and setting aside resources to do that properly. Highlighted a few research agendas here. I'm not going to go through them all one by one, but just wanted to press the point that there's a big need for academia and research institutes to partner with practitioners and the government to use data to progress the knowledge base and the boundaries of what we know in microgrid development and operations. In summary, the EES project is showing that solar microgrids can have a big impact on reducing energy poverty and accelerating energy access. There's a huge need for data, and data can play a big part in informing the sector. It reduces risk and boosts investment. And there's tools available to collect this data through remote monitoring, smart meters, and surveys. And a call to action really for practitioners, government, and academia to collaborate, work together, share information, share data to progress microgrids in Malawi and achieve universal energy access. Thank you very much.
Is Kevin around? I thought I was going to be introduced first.
I think he's still muted, but I'll take the opportunity to introduce Milian Mafuta from WashTED to give his talk on remote monitoring. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity to take you through some research that has been conducted on the microgrid, particularly from Tembanji and Nakatale in Balaka. Next slide. I will quickly go through introduction, then I'll look at the methodology of the research, and then I'll share with you a brief summary of the results and the discussion points. And then I'll conclude and make future recommendations or future work. Next. Hearing from both Aaron and Elizabeth, I think you'll agree with me that as a microgrid operator, you are very much concerned about how to satisfy the customer in terms of the energy need, how you are going to optimize revenue collection, and a big question on how you are going to achieve microgrid sustainability. These are three key issues that as a microgrid operator, you should be very much concerned about. So one of the contributing, or one of the solutions to this or to these problems is if I was able as a microgrid operator to forecast energy yield. We are talking about the potential energy yield for a day or next steps in the operation of the microgrid. Next. So the big question is it really possible to estimate or forecast potential energy yield for my microgrid? The answer could be yes or no, depending on what is available on the microgrid. And just to share with you, as Iran mentioned, we have robust technologies in the microgrid. For example, modern inverters, which would integrate technologies to capture vital, important information on the microgrid. But these microgrid inverters would probably record what has been generated and not what is the potential for a day that we may have. So we are missing something that is very, very important by not adopting some extra technologies that would tell us how much potential energy our microgrid are capable of producing. So we know that the microgrid that has a battery bank and a load that is not very flexible, as depicted on the right-hand side diagram, would only record what the battery is drawing and what the dynamic load is drawing. So the charge controller will only record the generation which is being directly fed into those two loads, the battery bank as well as the load. So as a methodology to try to estimate the potential energy from the microgrid, we developed what is called a control treatment plant, which has no battery bank and has a flexible load to consume whatever is generated from the solar panel. So the result is that we are able to capture the total amount of potential energy that has been generated, not based on the battery storage. Next. And one other thing that we installed for us to be able to forecast the potential energy was a weather station, which is depicted on the figure there. This is an IoT-based, that's Internet of Things-based weather station, which was able to give us vital, important information remotely. The parameters that we were able to monitor were basically 7, including solar irradiance, UV index, and module temperature. From this, we were able to perform correlation analysis with the generation for both the control treatment plant and the microgrid plant. Then we built a linear regression model to help us estimate the potential energy from each of these plants. And finally, we statistically compared the total generation that the microgrid was able to produce and what we thought should have been produced. Next. Next slide. Yeah, so the results show that the 3 key parameters correlated very well with the control treatment plant generation. And these are the UV index and the solar irradiance, as well as the module temperature. The correlation was over 90%, which means we would be able to tell a story from reading these 3 parameters. But quickly to mention that these parameters, much as they correlated with the control treatment plant, they failed really to correlate very well with the microgrid plant because we're missing the potential energy generation from the real-life microgrid. But when we tabulated this on the time scale, we discovered that these parameters also correlated with the microgrid data, but only during the morning hours. For example, before 9 o'clock from Tembanji microgrid and before 8 o'clock for Nakatari Energy Hub. Next. So using these three parameters as inputs to our linear regression model, which is a basic model, we're able to estimate about 94.7% of the potential energy that a microgrid could be able to produce. That's based on a coefficient of determination. So the training model was based on the morning microgrid power generation because that's when the correlation was higher. And then using the linear regression model, we're able to forecast what we should have produced throughout the day, even if the actual generation was lower. So as you can see from those graphs, we see that on day one, we're able to generate, that's the red line, which is the actual generation, which is not very far from what we thought we should have generated on that day, which is shown by the green line. And this continued up to around 9 o'clock in the morning. Then the microgrid drastically reduced the recorded potential energy, and yet we should have produced more on that day. So these are just 3 days of power generation estimation based on the linear regression model, which was trained using the morning hours data. Next slide. Then we went on to estimate the actual energy lost or the energy that we should have produced and compared it with what we actually produced on those 3 days. If you look at the bar graph on your left, we see that the actual generation, which is in red, was much less than what we should have produced. Actually, on that day one, we produced about 19 kilowatt hours of energy, and yet what we should have produced was 57 kilowatt hours for that particular day. So statistically, we see that we lost about 75% of the potential energy, which if you harvested, was going to be used in our customer base. So on day one, we lost about 75%, on day two, 67%, and on day three, we lost 70% of the potential energy, which if you harvested, we should have benefited quite a lot from that microgrid. Next slide. So as the microgrid operator, we see that if it was possible for us to capture the potential energy, the total potential energy, then as a microgrid operator, we should have benefited a lot using that information. For example, we should have planned to dispatch the excess energy to what is called non-fixed loads to boost our economic resilience of the microgrid. In that sense, what we are saying is it was possible for us to actually get some extra load, which is not fixed, in the sense that we could have, for example, an irrigation system, for example, just around the microgrid with a big storage tank, and we can pump water only when we know that we have excess energy, and therefore we should be able to run a small business around the microgrid, just as an example, or we could dispatch it to water heating or water cooling, or maybe lobby with those that are running tuck shops selling cold drinks to connect their refrigeration equipment only during that period of time when we have excess energy. But also that information could help us to do load profile shifting, which is very, very important in terms of trying to sustain the technical resilience of our microgrid. When we know that on a particular day, we are going to have not sufficient generation, we could curtail the load rather in a way that we avoid the overloading of our system. In that sense, we are going to have a robust microgrid that is not experiencing any overloading or deep discharges of our batteries, therefore contributing to the technical resilience of the microgrid. Next slide. So in conclusion, we see that through this small piece of work that we have conducted, we have demonstrated that it is possible to harvest more energy from a particular microgrid than what we are currently producing. And the requirement is that we should have a flexible load configuration, arranging, for example, with the customers to do what is called dynamic electricity pricing, so that we encourage customers to connect only when they when we have excess energy. But also the technology that we should have is a remote monitoring, apart from the embedded data loggers, to promote recording of extra important information for a microgrid, so that we have a smooth load on our microgrid. And the future work for this particular piece is to look at developing a more robust day-ahead forecasting algorithms, in the sense that I demonstrated that we can produce about 94.7% accuracy of forecasting, but this was only based on 3 parameters. That's module temperature, solar irradiance, and UV index. It could also be interesting to look at developing an algorithm that optimizes what is called feature selection to see the best performing input parameters. So these will be the next steps, and the idea is to contribute more to technical and economic resilience of microgrids. With those few remarks, I conclude my presentation, and I thank you sincerely.
Thank you very much, Miriam. Now we go straight into Q&A. May I invite the panelists to be very attentive. You can also go through the Q&A, browse through the very, very hot questions there, apart from maybe the ones people will be able to ask. I open to the floor for questions to the participants. Any questions?
Thanks, Kelvin. It certainly seems as though questions on tariffs is a hot topic. We've had quite a few questions there on tariff design and implementation and sustainability. So I wonder if that's something, and also it's a question on smart subsidies. What's the difference between a standard subsidy and a recommended smart subsidy? So I don't know if Aaron and Elizabeth, maybe you want to kick off on that, but of course anybody else in the panel, we might all have a comment to make on that too.
Thanks, Damien. I'd maybe start with passing over to Elizabeth just to talk about the different tariff bundles that are offered on the site, and then I'll follow up with the sort of the calculations that go into making the tariffs. Would that be okay, Elizabeth?
Yes, please go ahead.
No, sorry, I was going to say, if you start with saying what tariffs we have on the site, just the different tariff bundles.
All right. Can you start my video? I can't start it from this side.
Okay.
Okay, so We are offering three tariff categories. We have the first tariff that is called a Banja bundle. That one offers a limited amount of electricity per day to the customers, and it goes for 116 kwacha per day. So with that amount of power, they are able to use 4 lights for a period of 3 hours. They can watch TV for an hour, and they can charge 2 cell phones. So we thought it could be reasonable for the customers, because at baseline they were showing that they were spending 100 kwacha just to charge a phone, but then with the 116 kwacha, just a small top up, they would be able to benefit from all those services. So one issue we realized that was that the customers were keeping their lights on throughout the night. So the lights would sometimes go off in the middle of the night. And that's why they thought it was expensive, because it was not meeting their need. And we had to increase the limit, the energy limit for the day. That's how we had dealt with that one. On the second tariff category, we have the pay-as-you-go tariff, meant for those who still feels that the first tariff category cannot meet their energy needs. So with that one is a pay-as-you-go, and it gets cheaper during the day, and it's a bit expensive during the night. So that's the one that we constantly had issues with, because customers kept on complaining about it being expensive. But after reducing up to 70% daytime discount, we stopped receiving more of such complaints. And then the third tariff category is what we call the institutional tariff. And it is meant for institutions like primary schools, like schools, hospitals, or health centers and churches. So for Ntebanji, we have one primary school and a church, and they get 3 units of electricity every month for free. Once they have finished their allocation, they are supposed to buy on the pay-as-you-go tariff. But since we switched the microgrid on, those institutions have not been buying power, because whatever allocation we are giving them is enough to take them through the month. So maybe I hand over to Aaron at the moment.
Thanks, Elizabeth. So tariffs are a really important aspect of microgrids, and the approach taken through EASE is that of a social enterprise, and the social enterprise has a primary mission to provide energy access, and because of that, at the base of the tariff calculation is a question of affordability, and that's done through a lot of community engagement, asking people how much they'd be willing to pay, finding out how much they already pay, and then taking customer feedback on tariffs so that we can find an amount that they're happy with. Unfortunately, providing electricity in remote areas comes at a cost. On the high level, it's cheaper to put a microgrid in these remote areas than it is to extend the grid to these areas. And especially with the low demand that's expected, the payback on a grid connection would be significantly higher than the microgrid. However, it's still expensive. It's more expensive because Malawi is a nascent industry, and the cost of components is high and the cost of operations is high. So the calculations to get to these tariffs take into account the operational costs to keep the microgrid going, replacement of components, and ideally depreciation on the capex of the components, so that there's an investment case for investors with a positive IRR, or internal rate of return. Those costs are then looked at and considered with the different customer segments of residential, of commercial, and of institutional, and then the tariff bundles are designed to cover those costs, not in a profit-making way, but to ensure that the operations and maintenance are conducted and the microgrid is a sustainable project. And the tariffs are set in that way. It's a pilot project, and so it's an experiment in finding out how much people are able to pay and how much the costs are. And part of the ongoing business modeling is lowering these costs through more efficient operations, and the remote monitoring helps to increase that. And also working with the community, like businesses are more likely to pay for their electricity if they're running a business that's earning them an income. So if we can provide them support through appliance financing for welding machines or for fridges, so that they can use that electricity to develop the local economy and bring in income, then they're more likely to be able to pay for their electricity. Just very quickly, there's a question on the regulation of tariffs for smaller mini grids in Malawi. The tariff is an agreement between the developer and the customers, and that's all outlined with full transparency through the customer contracts. And if there are any changes to the tariffs, then these are updated through the ongoing customer engagement and community engagement that's done on the site. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. And Riza, any clarification on the presentations from participants?
No, I think it was very well answered there in terms of the tariffs. And tariffs is a tricky balance, especially in this context, being able to charge sufficient and obtain some sufficient revenues that hit with the business plan, the sustainability plan, and it's still being affordable. And that's what the guys have just been talking us through there. But I think the learning and the data that we've provided from this gives a very good set of information to have that conversation and to start for people to look at and learn from and understand where they can go with tariff setting. I think there's some other questions there were some questions on the district energy officer side of things. Should we look at that, Kelvin? I guess we've got less than 10 minutes left, so maybe we provide some more answers on those questions, a little bit more, a few more comments.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
Lewis, there was a question on the DEOs where the sort of greatest potential impact was, where they could add the most value to delivering on energy targets. Would you like to make a comment on that? Provide some comments.
Yeah, you can go ahead, make some comment on that. I think I also wrote something there, but you can go ahead, comment on that as well.
Well, go on. I mean, I'll have something to say, I'm sure, but let's hear your thoughts on that, please.
Well, my thoughts was on building more capacity, more especially at the grassroots level, training more local technicians, training more extension workers so that the information on energy is fully made available at the grassroots level.
Yes, I think we've seen quite a lot of benefit from the capacity building work that's been done. Certainly the feedback sessions with the extension workers and others, they've been very enthusiastic about their ability to have these conversations and feeling empowered to understand and bring energy into the conversation in their various sector focus. So I think from what we've seen there is the ability to grow that and build on that and link in and augment other initiatives, I think, that are going on in the district as well. So where these conversations have been able to happen, communities have been actively linked with other programs that are focusing on portable solar products or cook stoves or irrigation, and there's been good take-up. So I think that sort of mainstreaming activity is very important and can deliver a lot of impact. And I think, I don't know, maybe if Elizabeth, maybe you might like to comment on this, but I think what we've seen is that access to information at the district level on energy priorities and opportunities would be something that's very useful for some, a mini grid developer, for example, or somebody that was interested in investing in supporting renewable energy access in the district. Is that something that you think DEOs could build up an offering and provide, having the access to data sets and information and clear local priorities would be something that would be very useful when it comes to building up and scaling up microgrids, for example?
Yes, I agree to that. Usually it's a challenge to get information of especially where to put up these microgrid projects, because there are a number of parameters that microgrid developers look at. So if DEOs can facilitate that, so that at district level, there is that type of information or data, so that it reduces the time of developers trying to identify sites, and then sometimes after identifying the sites, you find that they are already earmarked for maybe the MAREP electrification. So I think DEOs comes in handy in that side of things, so that they facilitate the data collection and make the information easily available at district level. Thank you.
Thanks. And I guess lastly on impact, again, the building up a local technical capacity, so DEOs supporting and working with local technicians, I think has a chance to, an opportunity to really address some of the big sustainability challenges that are there when it comes to particularly solar PV, off-grid solar PV on education and health facilities. So again, we highlighted that there were some challenges around that, but also we've had some success in that area. And I think growing that, looking at that and focusing on it would be one of the biggest opportunities that for a DEO to have impact and through their role at this level. I think that's all I would have to say on that one. Is there any other questions that are coming in on the question and answer that we can briefly address? Or Kelvin, have we reached time? Do you want to give us your closing remarks, perhaps? I think we're due to finish at 2:30.
Yes, we should be winding off. Some of the questions in the Q&A, we keep on being in touch with the participants. They have our emails. Then we can keep talking about this conversation. In the coming months, of course, we're going to have policy briefs coming soon. Out of these detailed reports with recommendations to inform the energy access sector in Malawi in terms of deploying solar microgrids and DEO experiences. Also, you should check out the EASE blog for updates on that link, which is going to be provided unto you. Presentations and recording of this webinar will also be available to you. Further EASE events planned for next year. It will be like in person. We're envisaging that maybe we're going to have a face-to-face interaction in Lilongwe or Blantyre as we're closing the EASE project. Of course, this is to be advised at a later stage. Online event maybe is doable as well. Provisionally, I think we are anticipating maybe in March 2023, when we are going to have now everything wrapped up as EASE project. I thank you all for participating in this event, and stay abreast, and let's keep in touch and be networking as people in the energy sector. Thank you all. Thank you all. I declare now this webinar closed as of now. Thank you.